This episode is brought to you by Nordstrom. Summer's almost out and fall's calling. Luckily, Nordstrom has everything you need for the season ahead, all under $100. Discover new arrivals from your favorite brands like Mango, Princess Polly, Wave, Free People, BDG, and more. Whether you're planning a last-minute getaway, heading back to class, or refreshing your office looks, you'll find the latest trends and beauty must-haves without breaking your budget. It's easy, too, with free shipping, free returns, and in-store order pickup. Shop today, in stores, and at Nordstrom.com.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Buying a car shouldn't eat up your week. That's why Carvana made it convenient. Car buying that fits around your life, not the other way around. You can get pre-qualified for an auto loan in just a couple of minutes and browse thousands of quality car options, all within your terms, all online, all on your schedule. Turn car buying into a few clicks and not a full week's endeavor. Finance and buy your car at your convenience on Carvana. Financing subject to credit approval. Additional terms and conditions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Dogfish Head Craft Brewery. The Grateful Dead and Dogfish Head have gotten the band back together with the release of Grateful Dead Juicy Pale Ale, a light-bodied pale ale brewed with sustainable Kernza grains, granola, and heaps of good karma for a refreshing brew that's music to your taste buds. Available nationwide. Visit dogfish.com to find Grateful Dead Juicy Pale Ale in your neck of the woods. Dogfish Head Craft Brewery is located in Milton, Delaware. Please drink responsibly.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero, and you're listening to the Tour Coach Podcast. Well, we're rolling into fall here on the Tour Coach. And for the fall, just like we've been doing for the last couple of years here on the Tour Coach, I'm going to be bringing you lots of chats, interviews, roundtable discussions on what we do, how we do it, from players to coaches to caddies, students. All of this comes from my travels that are on tour or to Old Palm or from here in Mobile or wherever it is I go around this country or around the world teaching and coaching at the game of golf that I love. So hopefully if you listen, you're going to like what you hear. There's lots and lots of info and content coming your way that I think are going to help all of you understand and play the game even better or coach the game. We've got so many coaches that listen to this Tour Coach podcast. So appreciate all of you that have gone along with me on this journey for the Tour Coach. I didn't necessarily know where I was going with it when I started this when the Dew Sweepers radio show ended on XM Sirius. But I can tell you that it has given me so much freedom and creativity to be able to talk a little more and a little more in depth and bring all of you a behind the scenes, inside the ropes look at what me and my team do and the people that we associate with it and how you can use us as a resource to help you get better at the game of golf. Look, and if you like what you hear on the Tour Coach, also make sure you check out our Pro Work video series, which is available for you on YouTube and my YouTube channel. If you just go on YouTube and type in Pro Work, it'll pull up the episodes that are out there. Some really, really great stuff that takes you behind the scenes and inside the ropes. And before I let you go to the Tour Coach, special thanks to my sponsors that have all been with me for such a long time. Shrixon Golf, been with them over 20 years. Can't find anybody better in the equipment side of the world. Bushnell Golf, such a big part of what we're doing with Pro Work and what I do day to day, especially with the Launch Pro. Vineyard Vines, Ian and Shep, Amber and the folks there always keep me looking great. We've been such great partners for a good long time. And lastly, McConnell Automotive here in Mobile, Alabama. Mitch McConnell and the gang, there's nobody that has supported me longer. I mean, they're unbelievable. And the folks at Buick GMC for supporting the Dew Sweepers radio show, as well as the Tour Coach and as well as Pro Work. So check out McConnell Automotive and Buick GMC. And lastly, my friend Blaine Stokely and Stokely's Midtown Garden Express here in Mobile. Those folks keep the Dew Sweepers and keep the Pro Work and the Tour Coach and all of our content alive and well for all of you that love the game and want to learn. Enjoy the Tour Coach podcast, which is coming your way right now. All right, so sitting in here, Old Palm, been a good few days. Peter Knade in town at the end of your first year on the Korn Ferry Tour. Going to talk about that. I thought it'd be great to have you on. Hadn't had you on in a while. Let's talk about what you learned, what you took from the first year. Obviously, you started out great, second place, first event of the year, had some struggles, but I think you've done a great job really maturing through the year, really maturing as we evaluated the year, and kind of growing and learning from the process. Talk a little bit about that. First of all, just talk about what you learned and how you approached and took the year.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, got off to a great start and was feeling like my game was hot coming out of Q school and playing with a lot of confidence.
Played a really good stretch from Q school through the winter, kind of first part of January.
Yeah, finished first at second stage and felt like if I could finish first there, I could finish first in a Korn Ferry event. And then I learned about all the other stuff along the way, doing everything for the first time. So yeah, definitely expectations got like a little bit elevated after that first event.
But that's okay.
Totally fine. That was one of the biggest things I learned. Not that I didn't approach every week how I did the first week, because I did, but my expectations were there, and if I wasn't in the mix, it was easy for me to think, well, I've got next week, and
interesting.
It wasn't until the end of the year where I was like, this could be my last event, like that sort of thing. And then on top of that, just wanting to play every single week, not having, a schedule the previous 2 years and feeling like I was in every single event I've got to play, not only to learn which courses I like and which courses I don't like, but to just take the opportunity. And in hindsight, obviously it's 2020, but
yeah, but you can't change the past, right? You just learn from it.
Taking a week or two off here and there would have been super beneficial, obviously, to like work with you, reset at home, just get away from it a little bit and, work on some things and reflect on tournaments. Like that was one thing this year I felt like I didn't necessarily have an opportunity to do, was reflect on tournaments, because everything was moving so fast. It was like you get done with one and then you're right on to the next. And having that ability to reflect on a tournament, things I did well, things I didn't do well, is what I've done really well in the past, with time in between.
Okay.
To sit and think and then go back to the drawing board and, tackle things from not a different approach, but just, to clean up some areas, and also just like get away from the adrenaline of it all, because it was high frequency all year long, high intensity. And that was the biggest takeaway that I had, was just trying to be a little bit more patient with when I was playing and when I needed to step back and say, okay, let's hit the pause button.
I think you was saying the other night at dinner, I thought you've done a good job. I think and I told our buddy Matt Kopsky, we'll give him a shout out, but Kopsky,
he's
down here hanging out, friend of both of ours, and we both commented that you've done a nice job being able to step back and look at the things you did good as well as the things you did bad. Because we've all had know people like, you have a pretty good year, but you only focus on the bad, and then you go ahead and you make wholesale changes like, oh, I didn't play good for this month or 2 months, so I'm just going to scrap everything I'm doing. And I think that one of the real keys to success is being able to look at what you're doing well as what you need to work on, and then, but not just always beating yourself up. But as long as you're learning and you're getting better, and one thing that we had kind of said a bunch of times, I remember on the phone talking to you, was, hey, 2.5 years ago, if we'd have said, hey, with a month to go in the Korn Ferry season, you still got a chance to get your PGA Tour card, you'd have jumped at that.
100%.
Right? And so it didn't turn out the way you wanted, and you certainly could have had an opportunity to be in better shape, but you also can't forget where you came from and how far you have come along this journey, which I think, to me, is one of the more impressive things.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just like some talks that you and I have had, or like I had a great talk with Matt, probably with like 3 weeks to go in the season, and he was like, "Don't forget, this has like still been a great year." And sometimes it's hard to remember that when your expectations are set so high and things aren't going your way. And that was like a pretty big eye opener for me, where it was like, okay, like you got to change your perspective a little bit on this, you know, from where I was 2 years ago. Like, would have done anything to have those, you know, be in that spot.
Right. So, you know, and another thing that I thought was great, and not all players are like this, but, you know, you called me and you're like, hey, probably year and a half before we got to this, you were probably harder on me. You talking to me. You know, this year, I don't know if you were as hard on me or as critical of me. I need you to kick me in the ass, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And not a lot of players, we're not just here blowing sunshine up your ass. I mean, but a lot of players, you know, won't figure that out or won't, right? And I said, look, I mean, I felt like from a teacher's perspective, you had that stretch, you played good, but I could tell you were getting tired. One, you played a lot of golf. It's hard to tell you to sit out a week when you start feeling like you're running out of weeks.
Right. And in the past, I would have, like, you know, taken a little break,
right,
and then come back to it with, you know, some fresh legs and like ready to go again. But it was like, no, we got to keep going, because, you know, we're playing 14 out of 15 weeks in a row, and, you know, it's like, this is just how it is, you know.
I think from a coaching perspective too, like we mentioned this today, and heck, Curtis Thompson, who was in here earlier, Curtis, I said, like, it's really hard for me to show up on the range at a tour event and us expect to get a ton done isn't great.
Right, and that's where it was obviously, like, it was very circumstantial, but like, you know, I feel like when we've gotten the most progress out, I've gotten the most progress out, you've gotten the most progress out of me, has been when we've been looking long-term, big picture. Like, we're not going to worry about what's happening today or tomorrow, but like, where are we going to be 2 years down the line? And it's easy when you got, you know, a 7-week stretch to be like, all right, we got to play well today, and we can figure it out later.
I think both of us, me, I take, you know me, I take responsibility for the things I don't do great, and I say, hey, Peter, I didn't do as good a job at this as I needed to. Like, but you get caught in that, and I got 6 weeks left, and I've got to have a big week. We all start thinking micro and fix it for this week instead of long term.
Yeah.
Which I've always thought as a teacher, like most of the time been pretty good at keeping long term. But there's times with players when you're very connected and you're friends and you know how good you started off, and you're like, you're wanting to fix it for that week, right? And I think we kind of got away from that. I did too. But that's one of the hard parts about being a player and a teacher at that thing, is like, you want to fix the guy for that week. But it's hard when you've only got 6 weeks to say, hey, we need to take a week off and just go and really do some work when you know you only got X number of weeks left. I think that's the challenge.
And I think that's like where, you know, the conversations that we've had in the last few weeks, where it's like, no matter where we are, let's, you know, focus on the big picture, and like, whatever happens, but we're going to get there eventually. It's not if, it's when.
Yeah. And I think, too, the commitment to one of the things I've thought is good, and I think anybody at any level of golf can learn from this, setting a schedule and making a plan ahead of time where we've said, hey, these are the days we're going to plan to work, right? And I think if you don't do that, I think stuff always comes up. It always will, because it's life.
Right.
And you get that false feeling of like, I feel like I'm pretty close. I think it's okay. We'll be good. We don't need to, right?
Yeah.
We don't need to worry.
That happened multiple times this year with me, where I was like, no, I don't need to, I don't need to see it.
Yeah, remember? We were like, oh, you go, I feel pretty close this week.
And then, 2 weeks later, you're like, I need help. And like, one thing I noticed this year, when you're trying to work on stuff at a tournament, there's a lot going on. You've got 100 other players around you
caddies,
grinding on
everybody,
all sorts of different things, and it's easy to look around and be like, I gotta grind like that, when you and I both know that it's really just one or two things that we got to work on really efficiently, and then be done with it and go play.
I think too, obviously we're in a great spot here. We worked a bunch when I was at Fred, and we've had great places where it's very it's quiet. You get away from all of
the noise and the buzz.
Yeah, it's hard at a tour. You've got equipment people walking up, asking you about a shaft, handing you a club. You're in the middle of, we're talking, and then in the middle you step and go, oh, hey, I need this, because they're there and walking up to you. You got caddies, you've got managers, you've got everybody in the world, somebody from the tour. It's just distraction.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas I think if you plan time and you say, hey, we're going to go work, I thought these 3 days have been the best work we've had since January when we had golf camp down here. And I know golf camp's a little different because we may have 6 or 8 of us. But also everybody's only focused on working and playing, so it's not like a tour event.
Yeah.
I thought it's the best 3 days we've had in a year, because you're leaving with a really good plan and a commitment of when you're coming back, and we're going to work in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, and I definitely feel like I work better when I'm away from a tournament atmosphere. Mm-hmm. So just understanding that the season is long and the off season's not as long as I thought it was. Mm-hmm. And we almost have to create those little off season weeks within season to check up and get things tuned and dialed in.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think the other thing too is being able to look at one good thing is you've been able to step back and look at hey, these are the shots that have cost me. Okay, for you it's a ball that starts on line, goes too much left, right? And so one thing we've really spent a good bit of time this week is focusing on the why. Why does that shot happen? Not can I just time it on the range and hit it pretty good, but why does that shot happen? And approach it from multiple angles. We've approached it from, one, what's happening. So for you, it's kind of when your rotation stops a little going through and the club head rotates too much, flips over. And so we've approached it from the physical aspect of what's your body got to be able to do. And that's one area that I felt we've talked about stuff on playing for a living, how some things are harder than people think, but staying on your fitness program is hard when you travel 15 weeks or out of 16 weeks as well.
Yeah, and being with you and Aaron or someone like Colby, working together, collaborating on it, makes things so much more efficient when it comes to having a plan. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you're on your own and things aren't going well, you're I've just got to go hit more balls and work harder, and you're just ingraining it even more. Mm-hmm. Instead of starting and taking a step back and saying, okay, hey, this is what we need to do, and this is what we're going to work on.
I had this old mentor of mine, Tom Ness, he said that when you get in that pattern and you just go and you hit a bunch of balls, you're just getting better at not hitting it any good, right? Which is kind of, I think, where we were there for a few months. So I think you got to hit the reset button, you got to hit the pause, and you got to come back, get back to what your plan is. And I think the other thing too, learning that you have to take breaks, because not only for work, but for fitness, and planning stuff out. But when you play all those weeks in a row, if you don't schedule it structured, it's really hard then when you miss a cut on Friday to say, hey, you want to go meet and work versus, you know what, I really just want to go hang out, have some fun, right? Because you're still a young guy. You can't expect yourself to be miserable, not go do shit you want to do, not go see your girlfriend, not go spend time. I think we sometimes forget that life gets in the way.
At the end of the day,
you got to figure out how to do all this and still have a life.
Yeah.
Because I've just found the happier you are off the golf course and the more complete everything is, the better you play. Because how you play doesn't dictate how you feel about yourself. Right? Which, give a shout out to Margot here, I think has been a big part of the maturation process, because I think you're incredibly happy off the golf course. So if you play crummy, you're like, okay, you know what, I can still go have fun, right? I'm still okay. I'm still Peter. Like, I think that's a big part of it. I really do. I think that part of becoming of reaching your potential is having a plan and being happy with all parts of your life, not just your short game or your full swing or putting.
100%. She's been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So expectations. Let's talk about expectations. You said something to me like probably 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago on the phone. You're like, hey, I want to get back to where you're hard on me, and we had a plan, going to get to the Korn Ferry Tour. You're like 2 years ago we said this, so now we're here. I want to think about where we want to be 2 years from now, right? And I think we got a good plan. And so 2 years from now, our plan's to be in contention on tour.
At a major. And that's doable, right? We've seen, there's tons, Cam Young, right? There's tons of examples, people heck, 2.5, 3 years ago, everybody knew Cam Young was a good player. They didn't know he's one of the best players in the world, but not everybody would think he'd be up there in every major, but he was. So we know it can be done, but you've got to have a plan, and I like that. So what are your goals? Like, what do you say, hey, where do I want to be in a year, in 2 years, and how did you come up with that? So I think, obviously the goal is to be learning these things all over again, but at the next level. Mm-hmm. Because I've never been someone it's just going to happen out of thin air overnight. Mm-hmm. Like, I've got to experience these types of things. I've got to learn from it, and then I get better from, failure is probably a bad word, but
it's a good thing.
That's how I've always learned. I've always gotten a little bit better every single year. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like if we can get a little bit better every single year, mm-hmm. eventually we're gonna cross that line where we are one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I think that sometimes success comes too quick, too easy, too early for people. I think sometimes I've had a player win in their second start, and I think they almost would have been better from a PGA Tour perspective if they'd have finished second that week.
Yeah.
And then still had that, I got to keep getting better. I got to keep getting better.
And you can't feel what it's like to be in the final group
without being
without being in the final group of a major. And,
right.
Whether you win the tournament or shoot 90, if you better learn something from it, mm-hmm. Because you're going to be there again if you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think to me, again, the positive of all of this has been nobody. I didn't want to pick up the phone and call you after you missed the cut and then your season was over and all of that, right? But you can't avoid it. It happened. But I thought the way you're hey man, we just got to get better. Let's take some time. You took a little time off, had some fun, which you 100% should do, and I would have done. But come back, refocus, and re-energize. I think the people that get defeated and then they just look at it oh, I just had a shitty year, I've played bad. I don't know that that's not only is it not healthy, but I don't know that that gets you anywhere. I think you got to keep looking at big picture.
Yeah, right. That's not looking long term if you if you approach it that way.
And I think we need to. These are things that I think we addressed some today. I think we talked about the things you did well and you didn't do. Your good was crazy good. We talked about it yesterday. You would make 5, 6, 7 birdies around. Not kidding.
And a double or
two doubles.
Yeah.
Right. And we went and hey, I kept saying all year, your good is crazy good. Your good is as good as anybody out there. We got to make the bad better.
Exactly.
And so we got to get rid of doubles. And we were talking hey, if you just take those doubles and you turn them into bogeys, you make all those cuts. And of the ones that you made the cut, you finish in the top 20, right? Well, there's a PGA. That's easily a Korn Ferry card,
maybe,
full step, but maybe a PGA Tour card, right? And so some of reducing doubles was for sure what we worked on in the golf swing, which was getting the club, for nerds out there, we've worked on getting the club in your body to work more together, up the plane going through, have more control of the face, control the club face with your rotation. Did some really nice
because it's one or two shots a tournament that got away from me, and that can compound into when you, especially if it happens early on Thursday, and you know the cut's going to be 6-7 under, and you're you feel like you've already got your back against the wall.
Yeah, you're 1 over or 2 over through 4, and you know the cut's going to be 6 under. It's really hard to not go, I've got to go do something.
I've got to go do something great,
But if you didn't know what the cut was, or you didn't care, and you were 2 over through 4, you'd just keep playing off. You'd probably end up shooting 2-3 under every time.
Yeah.
Right? But so we've worked on eliminating big numbers, and that's what we've done in the golf swing. I thought we did some good addressing putting today. I thought that was the thing. I thought that if you look at your stuff, you make a lot of birdies, but you would also have rounds where you would have 3 3-putts.
Right.
4 3-putts. And some of those, to be honest, were for par on par 5s. Right? Mm-hmm. 25, 30 feet for eagle, and you make a par. And then in one in particular, you were doing well. And then the next hole, you make a big number because that spills over from, I remember that. I remember it was over on the west coast of Florida. I remember when.
Maybe Sarasota,
yeah. Right? That one drivable one, drivable par 4, I think. You hit it up there and you 3-putt or something. But anyways, so we did some work on putting. So I thought it was eliminating big numbers, improving putting because you make so many birdies. And then the last thing to me is for your length, how you improve par 5 scoring.
Yeah.
Those would be the 3 areas that I feel like if we keep an eye on and we get better at with the stuff we're doing in the golf swing and the stuff you do with Aaron and Colby, improving your physical ability to do it, I mean, you're going to get where you want. Because all the other numbers add up. You're up there in birdies.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you make plenty of birdies. You just make too many bogeys.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it just adds up. Talk a little bit about the fitness aspect, because I know one of the things you said was, you tried to do it all year. You were always working out. Didn't always, but it's hard to do on the road, too. Like the gyms and stuff, like Korn Ferry Tour or stuff, people don't realize they didn't like the PGA Tour where you just got a big truck where you got everything there, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably, if I can get more consistent with that this year, and obviously, I mean, it's easy to do it when you have everything available at home, and there aren't really any excuses around logistics with it, or I don't have this or I don't have that, and just being able to be more targeted on what it is that I need to stay really good with, which this week very clearly need a lot more hip mobility. So I can get into my right side and load properly, because that's usually where the problem starts. If I'm not loading into my right side properly, I start to manipulate and compensate in a lot of other areas, and that's when things start to get a little loose. So that fitness side is huge. I think that's been the biggest improvement in my game over the last 2.5 years. Because when it's good and when my body feels good and when things are moving properly, I feel like it's, it's just way easier to go out and play and be athletic. That's, growing up playing a bunch of other sports, I'll always feel in my best frame of mind if I feel like I'm in an athletic frame when I'm on a golf course.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, a lot of the stuff we've done over the years has been setup related, right? And I think the better your setup is, the more engaged you are physically and your setup's balanced, I think it's easier to do that. Right?
And it takes time. I mean, I've, 2 years from now, I want to feel like an athlete on the golf course, because I am an athlete. And, that's how I want to train. That's how I want to go about my daily thing. It's going to be a lifestyle 2 years from now,
And I think that's what's going to make you successful, is the understanding that to get where you want to go and to do what you want to do doesn't come from 3 days at Old Palm. It comes to committing to what we're doing and you're doing, and then sticking with it and understanding that, I mean, the payoff is probably 2 years down the road. It's hard to do that. I think the kind of the message of it is like, it's hard to keep that focus when you're in the middle of 15 out of 16 weeks and you're going from town to, and look, like, there's nothing wrong with the towns on the Korn Ferry. But like, not all of them are the most exciting places or the easiest places to get to, right? Like, you know, it is what it is, right? You know, but man, I'm pumped for you. I mean, I've told you this. I told you this way back. Like, I told you this at Ocean Reef one time. We were walking out that building. I don't have any doubt you're going to get a PGA Tour card and you're going to win on the tour. Always thought that about you. We just got to stay organized, and I got to do a better job holding you accountable. The good part is you don't mind that. Some people,
I want you to be hard on me.
You want me to be hard on you, right? I let up on you this year because, man,
you can't get better
But that first year's hard when you're going through it. You can't like, I couldn't tell you what this year was going to be like till you went and did it
myself.
Right? We could have stood there in January down here, and Rick and everybody could have told you what the year was like, and you'd have been like, "That's not going to be that bad." That's what you'd have thought, right?
Yeah.
Because like, you hadn't been through it, but now you know. So last part, golf courses. What did you figure out about golf? Like, what when you go to set your schedule now, what will you look for, and towards like how you set your schedule?
Yeah, I realized this year there are about one thing about the Korn Ferry Tour is you've got about 7 or 8 courses that are like PGA Tour tracks, and you've got about.
What was your favorite?
Either Ohio State or Omaha, or Savannah's really good. Nashville was really good. The bigger, longer golf courses with firm, fast greens, I typically
play more like tour events. I like those tracks a little bit better just because they play to my strengths a little bit more. There's not as many wedges. I don't have to worry quite as much about controlling my spin if the greens aren't as soft. And, you can grind it out a little bit. You don't have to go out and shoot 25 under to win. But that's, I can't ignore that there are courses like that, because in order to get to the PGA Tour, I have to play well on those courses that I don't like. And that's one big thing that like we're working on right now is like getting better with my wedges, controlling. Obviously, like I'm always going to be a high spin player, but if I can get more consistent with the windows that they're coming out on, controlling the face, like those distance control and spin is going to be a little bit more manageable. And over the course of the season, it won't put as much pressure on my putter, and it'll be easier not to fight certain aspects of my game or put too much pressure on one aspect of my game or feel like I have to hit driver everywhere and stuff like that. So and also not putting too much pressure on myself on the golf courses that I know set up well for me, because I definitely did that a couple of times this year where like I showed up to a place and I'm like, oh, I gotta play well this week, this course is like built for me, and put a little bit too much pressure on myself. Yeah, and I think learning to not put pressure on yourself is way easier said than done. But I think when you go back to where we started with, I was like, hey, I got a schedule, I got a plan, I'm going to work it.
And I think having some more consistent results on those courses that I don't necessarily feel like they fit my game very well, like that's going to give me a lot. There will be less pressure when I get to those courses that I like.
Yeah, agree. And I think some of that just comes from having a plan, preparation, and sticking to it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think when you do that, you'll see better results on the places you don't like. And even if some of them, regardless how, there's going to be weeks you miss a cut. It just happens, right? Ball doesn't go the way it's supposed to or whatever. But when you have the plan and you stick to it, and you're not every week showing up trying to regroup and figure it out,
right?
There's more. It's a comfort too. And I think the more you're comfortable and you trust that, I think your performance goes up as well.
100%.
Awesome stuff, bud. You're one of the best. One of my faves. I also enjoy you and Margo down here hanging out, having some dinner. So it's
so
good.
Great.
We'll do it again in a couple
weeks. It's so
weeks.
much fun. I always love hanging out with you, and appreciate you having me on.
I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Tour Coach and this conversation that we brought to you about playing, learning, and teaching the game of golf. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Tour Coach. In between now and next week, make sure you follow us on our social channels. You can always find me at The Dew Sweeper on Instagram, or go to our YouTube page where you'll see a scene and a video from my teachings daily on our YouTube channel. You can find that by looking up Tony Ruggiero and the Dew Sweepers on YouTube. Until then, make sure you follow and check out everything Tour Coach and all our sponsors, Srixon Cleveland Golf, Bushnell, Vineyard Vines, and Buick GMC. I'll be back next week to help all of us appreciate, learn, and enjoy the game of golf.